Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to Altenberg in Germany, to the DKB Ice Canal and the start of the run-in towards the World Championships, the second half of the bobsleigh season. It's round 5 of the Wiesmann FIBT World Cup Tour, and the first on the agenda is the women's bobsled. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martin Haven in a blustery but overcast Altenberg. Sitting alongside me is Canadian slider Jessie Lumsden. And Jessie, after all the snow last year, they'll be grateful that this track at least will be free of that.
It makes it more of an even, fair race, taking the elements out of it. This is optimal for bobsleigh race atmosphere. People will be bundled up. As you can see with the track, we have a vertical drop of 122.22 meters. Start record is 5:74, held by Humphries and Moyes, and the start is very important at this track as we come into corner 1, which is known as Benesch Curve. Not for any popular reason, but because of a crash, and it's not the best way to have a corner named after you, but as we come into 3 and 4, the 4 being a 2-pressure omega curve. Why is it an omega? Well, it looks like the shape of an omega. Coming down through this track, there are some very, very key important corners and straightaways, and as we come into 9, leading into the straightaway, it is very important to come out straight, not tap too much as we come into Kreisel, which is a 3-pressure Kreisel. It's very different from other Kreisels where you have to release the pressure to shoot out, and there is an indicator at the end of Kreisel, a little flag that the pilots use to steer out of the corner. As I was talking about, these straightaways are very, very wide, almost like having a passing lane there for you. It is very important to keep that bob straight, not to skid too much as we come into 16 and 17, which is the finish corner, and into the braking stretch, and another corner that is important to keep the sled down, and we have seen crashes there before. The track record 56.79 seconds by Humphries and Moyes.
Well, Kaillie Humphries, Heather Moyes setting the start record and the track record. That was back in 2009. In the snow of last year, there was no chance of capturing those records. Kaillie, of course, coming in here undefeated this season, a perfect score. She could not be any higher up the order. Sandra Kiriasis and Alana Myers, 2nd and 3rd. Sandra Kiriasis having her birthday today, so she turns years old, January 4th. Now, of course, Kaillie Humphries, 7 straight World Cup wins. She's going for an all-time record 8th win here. And your teammate is looking in fantastic form. But she didn't race on the track here last year after Chris Spring had his accident in training in the 4-man. None of the Canadians raced. So she's maybe a little behind on intimate knowledge of the track.
That being said, this is one of her favorite tracks personally. So she is going to come into this race hungry, very, very hungry. The Germans are looking to take advantage of the short travel that they had over the break, the short break for the North American sliders, and obviously home field advantage. Sandra Kiriasis made it known in the Altenberg media that they are going after the podium, and they do not want to see Kaillie Humphries on top of it this week.
Well, there is Sandra in the pink, and right beside her you saw Kathleen Martini. Now, they were 1-2 last year. Kathleen won. This is her home track. She's from Saxony, and there she is warming up. And Sandra Kiriasis, originally from Altenberg as well, but now based in Winterberg. So the Germans are looking definitely to try and break this Canadian domination of the top step of the podium. As you can see in the background shots here from the warm-up area, it is pretty misty, it's pretty damp, and that means that the track isn't going to be exactly lightning fast, but it does mean that the snow is not going to have a major effect. Well, Kaillie pretty relaxed. She was up at 4:30 this morning, starting her warm-up in the weights room at the hotel, so she's ready to go. And you saw the Romanians there as well. Maria Constantin, both Romanian sleds are back here. Start list, well, Christa Hoster of Austria, who was 6th on this track last year, she'll be the first to go. From Paula Walker, Schneider Hiner. The top 10 sleds of the World Cup rankings go into a random draw. So the Germans got reasonable draws. And we have a 13-sled field.
This is an important race for Christa Hoster. She's been showing development, showing improvement all the way through. And with a smaller field, the Russians not being here, USA not being here, them taking advantage of an opportunity for training in St. Moritz where World Championships is, Christa is really looking to capitalize on this, get some points, and get into a top 6 position.
Well, Christa Hoster in 6th place on this track last year. This is one of her best results of last season. Inga Versen right behind her. Now the start record 5:74. If these girls can break a 5.9-second start, that will be really good for them. 5:99.
The start is very long and flat, similar to La Plante, so you need to have the start here. You need that start velocity, you need that speed going down. It is a technical track, so that being said, mistakes can be made. It is known to happen. Crashes do happen here. So, but if you want to put yourself in a good pole position, the start is very important.
Well, out of the Omega corner and through this labyrinth at the top of the track as you head down to corner 9, Judai, which is the second of the potential drama areas. And of course, now we're back in Europe, we have got these Kreisels, the corkscrew corners, and this is one of the fastest, highest pressure Kreisels in the business.
It has 3 pressures, which is not normal. In Calgary, you want to see, and other Kreisels, you want to see a nice flat line. We're here in Altenberg, in the Kreisel corner, you want to see a nice gentle wave. You're using the pressure to your advantage.
58.79 slide. That's exactly 2 seconds off the all-time track record set by Kaillie Humphries. And you saw that Christina Hengster's sled was sliding sideways a lot down the track.
Well, it's very important coming out of 9 to keep that pressure so you do go straight into Kreisel. Not straight, but little middle left, so you have that, so you can catch that pressure nicely and go into Kreisel properly. 9 has tendencies to, at the end, to lift you up a little bit, try to pop you up. So it's important to really get your steer in early and let it fly straight down. As you can see, the nose is losing the back end. You're losing your nose and tapping it all the way down the straight.
Again into the labyrinth below the Kreisel. Absolutely right. To absolutely perfect line on the way in is absolutely critical, because otherwise you'll get later and later and later as the corners rush up at you. Pretty high speed down the bottom of this track. This is Great Britain's Paula Walker, 8th last year. She's got Jill Cook behind her. Jill is now fully fit again. She was nursing an injury in the first part of the season. And now it's Paula who's got a bit of a dodgy left knee. She's all taped up. She's going to get scanned after the race. Hopefully they'll both be fit by the time we get to the World Championships in St. Moritz.
Good shot from behind. You can see both athletes digging into the ice with those bob spikes. 5:93 start.
All right, well, again, an indication that perhaps they're not as quick as they would like, but you can lose so much time after you get in, Jesse, by just skidding around the track.
It is important to stay still, especially for the brakeman in the back. Once you're in these flat, long straightaways, little movements will move you around, will move the sled around, you will lose the back end.
A much better run down the straight, didn't tap the wall, no skids going into the Kreisel. And all the athletes looking for a little red rag that dangles from the roof just after the third pressure to show you when to steer off, otherwise you can get a bit disorientated. Good speed down the bottom, 115 kilometers an hour there. That's 72 miles an hour. We're up to 75 at the fastest. Well, she is 26 hundredths up. She got up to 3/10 in front coming out of the Kreisel. Didn't make the best run through the lower labyrinth, so you're not seeing it on your screens. We do have it here. Great Britain have the lead of the race though with a 58.53 slide, so 23 hundredths in, 26 hundredths in front of Christina Hengster of Austria.
We will be talking about Kreisel a lot here. It is so important because the track, which does drop, flattens out of Kreisel, so you're not going to be gaining velocity. It's important to come out smooth and clean and not tap. That is where you will scrub a lot of speed.
See the girls taking the sled off the ice. Yeah, do not fall over. Just to remind you, ice is slippery. Now this big finish dock here at the bottom of Altenberg.
I think that's a good angle, a good shot of that sled. You can see how it rises up at the bit, a bit at the end, and the pilot has to haul it off, and you get a slap down.
Well, now for Anja Schneider-Heinz of Germany. She's in the Germany 3 sled. She's from the Oberhof area. 34 years old now, and a former world and Olympic champion as a brakewoman.
Anya and Lizette using a rock start, which is a little bit different than most of the other nations, but they are a fast pushing team, as we see 581 at the start.
Well, she was eased off the podium last year by the Swiss Fabienne Meyer, and the Germans will be desperately looking to try and get all three sleds into the top 3 spots here. 9 hundredths of a second up. They started 581, which gave them a 12 hundredths advantage over Team GB1. Well, that's a decent exit there, but she's gone behind already, despite that quicker start. 108.9 kilometers an hour, 67 miles an hour. Again, the speed's not as good, and a big skid there, Jesse.
With looking like a fairly smooth run here, we are seeing bleeding of time, and this could be one of the third factor of a race, and it's the choice of equipment that you use. You can't control the conditions that are outside. Like a race car track, the crews come with different sets of tires. Yeah. We have different sets of steel runners that we do use and choose according to ice temperatures and weather conditions and the track itself. This could be a cause of poor equipment choice.
Yep, could well be on the wrong runners for the conditions. They started 12 hundredths in front. They finished 17 hundredths behind Paula Walker. They lost nearly 0.2 of a second just on that run.
Well, body language does say a lot, and Anya was not happy with that. A good shot from the back here of both athletes really digging it out. You see that rock at the start to try to gain the momentum. Arms locked in, using the lower body as best as they can to propel that sled down the track.
Well, Anja Schneider Hiner there. She is one of Germany's great brake women of the last Olympic cycle, then started her driving career. The green flags of Saxony, matched by the livery of the sled of Kathleen Martini, the 30-year-olds from Zwickau. Very close nearby here, with Stephanie Schneider behind her, last year's race winner.
Home field advantage as you see the green flags flying in the background that match the sled. A 591 start, a 10th behind teammate Anya, but this is a good position for her to be in, as it is her home track. She will know the ins and outs of all of these corners.
Well, best result for her so far this season was in the second World Cup of the year. She was on the podium in the bronze medal position, has not had another medal all year long. That's a great-looking run. She was 200s up on Paula Walker at the start, 700s up going into the Kreisel, and a good exit.
Very smooth.
121.3, 75.4 miles an hour. That's top speed so far. Oh, look at the result as well. She's gone from 1400s to 2600s up, coming down through the lower labyrinth. That speed off the Kreisel has really allowed her to pull out a big advantage, 58.10. That's a really good-looking shot for victory from the German girl.
Well, you expect this from last year's winner. Again, home field advantage. You know the ins and outs. You know the little tricks, especially in these tough corners where the 14, Kreisel, 9, they can be very tricky for certain other pilots, and as a home field athlete, you know every angle, every which way, every little speed trap.
And you know, we talked a little bit about the weather conditions. She'll know what this track's like in all conditions. Speed's there. Top speed from Kathleen Martini before the Kreisel, exiting the Kreisel, and at the bottom of the track. Well, that was a top draw performance from Kathleen Martini. That throws the gauntlet down now for Kaillie Humphries and for Sandra Kiriasis and for anyone else. Come and catch me if you can.
It was a great look at the Kreisel corner. You see that sled going through the pressures, going through the wave, using that and gaining speed coming into the flat part of the track. So,
Kathleen Martini leads. Next up, Astrid Radenovic with a new brake woman on the back, Janu Pittman, a double world champion at 400-meter hurdles, and a big coup for the Australians to get such a prolific summer athlete onto the back of the sled. It's her first ever World Cup start, and they get away in a 6.05.
It won't be the start that she was hoping for, but this is the opportunity for Astrid to come down and take advantage of the training runs that she's had and the coaching that she does get from the German program and put down a good run.
Well, she's very good friends with Sandra Kiriasis. You say the Germans took the Aussies under their wing several years ago. Ooh, a little wild and high there on the final pressure. Again, waving up and down a lot in the Kreisel. Now she's back in her old sled. They hired a new sled in Winterberg. This is the Old Faithful. She's produced some decent results from this sled already.
Little tap.
Little tap down at the bottom. Come down in 59.30. And of course, with a slightly reduced field, that means she's got a much better chance of finishing up in the top order. And of course, you know, you can only race who shows up, Jesse. There's no point saying, well, yeah, we were only ninth because there was no Americans and no Swiss. And yeah, it doesn't matter. If they don't turn up, there's nothing you can do. It's just you against the track.
Exactly, it's you against the track, and that's what it comes down to. This is not a sport where you're competing against directly your opponent. You have to focus, you have to put yourself in the right frame of mind as a bobsleigh pilot and push athlete to come out and give yourself the best result possible.
A couple of big high lines there. Astrid won't be happy with those. I don't think she'll feel that she made anything approaching her best run down this track.
Well, there's certain corners around the world that you do want to get that height. That's not one of them.
Second last year was Sandra Kiriasis, the birthday girl here, in the Bundeswehr, the German army, and she is now based at Winterberg, but originally from the Altenberg area. 2006 Olympic champion. This may well be her last but one ever race on this track. Can't see her continuing beyond 2014. 5.96 getaway.
Not the starts that she has wanted this year. She has been behind the field a little bit, but because of her experience, how long she's been in this sport, not relating to her age or her birthday, this is not about that, but her experience, she can gain time down these tracks.
500's behind at the start, and she's still losing ground as a result of that. But after corner 4, it's almost like a new start. Still giving away time. Now, this is not good. This is looking a little bit like Anja Schneider-Heinz's problem. I wonder what weather forecast the Germans read last night. 119.5 kilometers now, 74.3. Decent speed on the exit as well. Is she coming back? She's up to third place now. And a tap on the wall. Christoph Langen not liking that one very much either. 58.65 slide from Sandra Kiriasis.
Well, neither you or I expected to see two German sleds in this position this far behind. It, again, it comes down to the push, your ability to drive the track, and the equipment that you chose leading up to the race.
Well, actually, you know what? I mean, Sandra's third, Anja Schneider-Heinz are fourth, but they're both within 0.2 of a second of Paula Walker. The real jump is that Kathleen Martini, the race leader's 0.4 clear. Well, not much wrong with her start again. You know, she's got plenty of technique. She's got young fast break women, Franziska Bertels. She's got Berit Viaca, you know, as the alternate. But mistakes on the drive as well.
A few little mistakes, and they can cost you when you're competing against somebody like Martini, who's had so much time on this track. You have to be perfect.
Well, Sandra too. I mean, Sandra knows this track at least as well as Kathleen. You know, you know, for Paula Walker, second place at the moment, that's great. You're doing really well to be ahead of 2 of the 3 Germans. What about Kaillie Humphries, our Olympic champion? Didn't race here last year, but holds the track record from 2009's race with Heather Moyse. Heather, it seems, is she looking to get back into Canadian bobsledding? Seems like she's fit again.
Well, it'll be tough competition for her as Chelsea is pushing very well on a 5.84.
Yeah.
Is the best start we've seen today. I'm sorry, Anja Schneider has just a 5.81.
Well, now Kaillie, 7 straight World Cup wins. She's 700s up on leader Kathleen Martini. She'll outstart the Saxon girl, and she's still got an advantage. Now, it's not been about this new start with Chelsea Valois. Everything is working perfectly so far. Look at that, what a great exit.
Real high coming into Kreisel, tempering that wave down and shooting out of that exit just like you want to.
110 and 119, top speed so far, but she's drifted behind out of the Kreisel. Can she find the lead? 116.1, 72.2, that is very good speed. Can she get back into the lead before the end? She can't. She's a quarter second behind Kathleen Martini, but she has been behind already this year and come back to win. Quarter second is a big gap of time to try and close, especially on the local hero. This
will be the biggest gap she's going to try to close to come out with her 8th victory in a row. This will be a test of character. She knows the line, she's driving very well. The Eurotech sleds are running very well. It will be a test of character, and Chelsea will need to give her a little bit better of a start at the top of the track.
Well, you know, all streaks will come to an end eventually, and she knows she's just riding it while she can. Good high exit, but Kathleen Martini, 121.3, still the top speed there. Wow. Well, whatever Martini read in the weather forecast, she certainly seems to have got the setup and the lines right. There's Chelsea Valois, Kaillie Humphries. Well, everybody refreshed after their Christmas break. Next up, Esme Camper of the Netherlands, 29-year-old doctor from Amsterdam. Returning to World Cup bobsledding after a season's hiatus last year.
The Netherlands, the other country that is running in a Eurotech sled.
Well, best result of the season for them, 4th place in World Cup number 3 in Lake Placid, New York. That shows you that she's not afraid of real drivers' tracks.
No, there are a couple drivers' tracks around the world. Altenberg definitely being one of the most difficult.
We know there are some places here, you've got to think Lake Placid and Whistler, where everybody's just got a little jangle of the nerves at the start. It's not regarded as a straightforward and easy track. Oh, there, and that's going to really cost her.
Big skid coming into Kreisel, but making the best of the entrance. And having that tap out of Kreisel will slow you down, and the speed is going to hurt.
118 there, 121 for the fastest sleds. At the moment, she's in 7th spot off the 3rd fastest start. She comes in just ahead of Astrid Radenovic. Saw the coach there, Nikki Minicello, former women's bobsled world champion.
As we were talking about the different tracks, the nerves that you have as athletes at the top of certain tracks. Lake Placid is known for very abrupt transitions, short, quick transitions where you're doing a lot as a driver. You're pulling on to corners and pulling off. You kind of feel like one of those rock'em sock'em robots where your just arms are going back and forth. Whistler, definitely the speed. It's all about the speed. As we take a look at the start here, athletes again digging it out. You can see this ice bits and snow flying up from behind. You want to see a little more stillness possibly out of the arms of the brake woman and locking that and pushing that energy down into the ice. And then the big skid coming out of 9. That is where you do scrub a lot of speed. You do not got to get control of that sled before you go into Kreisel.
Well, there is Esme, and Judith Viss, her brake woman. You've got to think it's got to be the tallest woman on tour. She really is long and rangy. Well, next up, Fabienne Meyer of Switzerland with Michelle Huviller behind her. And the Swiss girl in the bronze medal position last year, her career best World Cup result. I wonder, can she get close to that again? Well, the Swiss men will not compete here this week. They are with the Americans and the Russians in Samoritz. Well, Caroline Spani, the Swiss 2 pilot, won the Swiss National Championships last week in Samoritz. So much for their Christmas break. However, she still has better overall season's ranking, so she is still the Swiss 1 driver. 6:14 getaway. I'm sure they will hope to improve on that in the second heat. At the moment, she's 9th.
Pretty clean coming into Kreisel, 109 speed.
Ought to be looking up at 111s there. 121 on the exit, 119. So this isn't going to bring it anywhere near close to the top three. Again, little rattles and taps, Jesse, not a tidy run.
And not the best speed. This is not going to give you the opportunity. She really gets underneath the sled to try to make that aerodynamic profile as smooth as possible, but not the run that she was hoping for. 124 behind the lead.
Listen, she started 9th, she finished 9th. You know, it's not rocket science, as we're you know, used to saying that it's not all about the start, but if you don't have a start, you know, it's like going into a boxing ring with one hand tied behind your back. You're always going to be at a disadvantage. You don't care how good your footwork is.
That's a pretty good analogy right there.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing here. If you don't get a start, you get beaten up. Well, that was a great line down
Smooth,
into the Kreisel.
Straight, exactly how you want to be going through a straightaway, point A to point B, straight line. It's coming through the exit, that great camera angle there, and it looks nice and smooth. There's no abrupt slap off, but the City sled was not performing.
The pace. Well, next up, Caroline Spani. She's the second of our Swiss athletes. Younger of the two, just 30 years old. Caroline so far this season with just 2 World Cup starts. She didn't do the North American swing. 14th last time out in Winterberg, the best result of her year so far. Well, teammates started 6:14, they start 6:0. And, you know, 1500ths of a second over your teammate at the top. That may go some way to explain maybe why these girls won the Swiss Championships.
A good start is going to help in looking to compete against your teammate on a World Cup level. You are going to want to come down ahead.
Whoa.
That is a big jump. That's a huge
started
jump.
a 10th behind our race leader, Kathleen Martini. At the second clock, already 4 tenths behind her, and half a second behind getting into the Kreisel. Goodness me.
Big wave in Kreisel, able to control it using that red flag that does hang out at the end.
But you almost never see that on TV. You often hear about it, but it's not until you actually go down the track in a sled that you see it, and it's quite clearly visible when you're craning your head around the Kreisel.
You saw how much that's the back end of that sled came out on that straightaway between 14 and 15. That's a runner going sideways. You're just plowing snow and frost. And if we do look closely at the track, if we do look at the straightaways, we are seeing frost build up.
Yeah.
That could be a cause to why the sleds are slowing down as much as we are seeing it. We do normally see a tighter grouping of numbers, so that's something we're going to have to pay attention to. The deterioration of the track in the second heat will be interesting.
It's been pretty moist overnight, and the refrigeration on, of course, to keep the ice solid. Otherwise, it would have melted like the ice on the roads around here. But
well, as you take a look down, you can see the runner marks in the straightaway. That's showing you that snow is not snow, but frost is building up.
Forming.
Frost is forming. That is going to slow you down.
Kathleen Martini of Germany is our race leader. The Saxon girl on top by a quarter second on her home track. More sleds still to come.
So, wenn wir uns mal die Abstände anschauen, hier die Kanadierinnen nach Viertelsekunde Rückstand zur Kathleen Martini, 20 Hundertstel. 43 Hundertstel ist der Abstand dann der Britinnen. Da ganz gerade das momentan schnellste Team im ersten Durchgang. Wir rufen schon mal das nächste Team wieder auf. Das wird Belgien geschafft.
Top of the track. Top of the track with Elfie Williamson of Belgium. World Cup number 5 here in Altenberg, Germany. And another summer Olympian, Hannah Marion, a multiple track cyclist gold medalist and world champion on the back of this sled. Started last time out in Winterberg. Track cyclists' calves and thighs work in a very, very different way to sprinters. Jessie Lumsden, that's going to take some retraining of her muscle groupings to be able to sprint on ice as opposed to in a velodrome.
Definitely is a different muscle group, but the muscle development is there. So it's just the training, the aspects of running behind something is the most difficult technical part to learn.
Well, 6:16 getaway is the slowest in the field so far. Of course, this Belgian program was created from standing starts to run up to the 2010 Winter Games in Whistler. And the girls were the stars of a reality fly-on-the-wall documentary that followed the progress as they whittled down a field of athletes into the 2 that eventually became their Olympic team.
108.1 the speed coming into Kreisel. Elfie did have one of the more interesting lines coming out of corner 9 this week in training, so it was good to see her get that steer down and come out smooth.
There's been a couple of crashes in training, big skid there, and of course, like ice skates or skis, when the runners here get sideways, they do create drag, they do slow you down. The brakes in a bobsled are only used after the finish, so to slow you down as you're coming up the hill. And Elfie, look, the body language there, oh, okay, had enough of that one. But at least they have enough speed to get over the crest. Not enough to get them into the finish, though, so they're going to have to get out and push it all the way. That will leave them 11th. Down in the labyrinth, you can see the articulation as the sled rocks from one corner to the other.
Well, and with the articulation, the head and the body, and that's the focus of the eyes of the driver is always looking ahead. It's like how you ride a motorcycle, it's how you drive. You look where you're going. You don't look down the nose of the sled. You don't look directly in front of you. You look where you want to go, and your hands will hopefully take you there.
Well, hey, Jesse, it's exactly the same as catching a football. If your eyes leave the ball leaves you. You know, everything follows your eyes.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing, when you're on the track, you barely notice the rocking and rolling. You're just looking where you're going. Next up, first of our 2 Romanian girls. This is Maria Constantin. Just 21 years old, student from Bucharest. She's been sliding for now. This is her 2nd season. And the Romanian girls are just so enthusiastic. 6:28 getaway.
Well, every opportunity they get to slide and to learn, they're enjoying it. They love it. You can see it in their faces around the track, and you can see it in when they come down at the bottom.
So much fun to be around. They're just, you know, that's one of the great things about this sport, is it is a very individual sport. It's like being a time trialist or something on a cycle. It's just you and your equipment. You know, you can't knock anybody off. They can't knock you off. And so everybody understands the game that you're in. And there's a great camaraderie between the athletes.
Seeing some skidding and some tapping and jump. A little bit of style points going in there. Not the best for speed. And a big skid coming into 15.
Again, very new to driving, only been driving for 2 years. So made her World Cup debut a couple of races ago. 12th place, 2.76 seconds back. But again, it's not so much about the gaps. Every time you come down an ice track, you learn a little bit more. And it's worth repeating again, you know, unlike auto racing, where before the race you probably spent 2 or 3 hours on the track, here 6 runs in total. So less than 6 minutes of practice before you get to race against the best on the planet.
Oh, you can see a very high exit, has to turn that nose down very aggressively and then jumping into the corner. Runners leaving the ice. That is not how you do. She's showing us how not to do it. A couple different angles and some good air, and she will definitely try to change that, fix that for her next run.
Well, you know, if you can eradicate one of those errors, then that's another step forward.
And if you eradicate the first, it's gonna help with the second. And that's the interesting thing about this is if you get caught behind on a track, it's very difficult to put your mind ahead of it and to get past it.
And our 13th and final sled in this first heat is Oana Giacanu of Romania, with Christine Spataru behind her. Oana is the older and more experienced of the pair. She's fully 22. In fact, she turns 23 next week. She's been driving now. This is her third season, but again, like Maria, World Cup rookie season last year, so she's still only got a handful of World Cup races.
A 6:35 start. And a bit of a skid out of one.
Well, unlike Matthias Benesch, the guy who now runs the track here, after whom the corner is named, at least she didn't crash out of one.
From what I was told, there has been 2 crashes.
Yeah.
Benesch was just, unfortunately, the first.
Benny was the first, and he's a local boy as well. I mean, lives in Altenberg. He's been sliding on the track all his life and crashed out of corner 1. And again, that just goes to show you that you can, every corner of the bobsleigh track is dangerous potentially. If you get it wrong, it can bite.
Very rough exit out of Kreisel, hitting the right wall.
Again, didn't quite get the steer right, came down a little early. Centrifugal force wasn't done with her, pushed her back up the corner as it became the wall of the straightaway.
But it did a good job in the straightaway from 14 to 15 to get caught up.
Well, 13 spots, so she is behind her teammate Maria Constantin. And that's how they finished, with Maria ahead of her last time that they raced, which was in Winterberg, Germany. So Romania 2 ahead of Romania 1 as they complete the first round of competition here in Altenberg.
As we come out of the exit of the Kreisel, you're seeing it hang up there just a little too long.
We might need to move that camera another few centimetres up off the wall, just in case.
Just in case.
If this track gets quicker in the heat 2, they might be along the top of the wall there. But you can see from the sled, it has had its fair share of hard work. But Oana brings it down all in one piece. So the race being led then, perhaps no surprise, by the girl who is based here in Altenberg, who won last year's race, Kathleen Martini, carrying the green colours of the local region here, the former kingdom of Saxony. She has a big advantage. Kaillie Humphries, the Olympic champion, quarter second back in second place. Paula Walker, Great Britain, lies third. Could this be her first podium of the season? She's ahead of Sandra Kiriasis and Anja Schneider Hiner of Germany, with Christina Hengster of Austria looking for her best result of the season in the top half dozen. Well, 13 sleds started all safely down, so they now go back to the top of the track and re-prepare. And Jesse, this is a difficult time for the athletes. They got a bit of a long wait for the second heat.
They have the opportunity to take a look at their sleds, get the sandpaper that they need from the FIBT jury, and try to polish out any sort of nicks and gouges that the track may have put into their runners. So it's time for them to refocus, get some work done, and get ready for the second heat.
And we'll be back to cover that live when they get back on the ice here in Altenberg, Germany.
Euch ein bisschen Informationen bereiten. Zum Beispiel, Bobby kennt sich da ganz prima aus, und zwar wenn ihr